Hi guys and dolls, YouTube land, that's Asmith coming at you. What it is I want to talk about what actually happened on the phone video. What happened on the phone video was the phone came in and the phone was untested, and it was said on it that the phone was untested. When the phone went onto the charger, it was left to charge up. After the phone charged, the phone then decided that instead of it being fully working, the phone had a fault issue. The fault issue was basically it wouldn't stay on the main menu. The phone started to take a malfunction. The malfunction basically was on the screen or on the PCB, on the PC. If it wasn't the screen that was at fault, it was the PCB board. There was an issue on the PCB board itself, and as the PCB board was controlling the digitizer and the screen was actually flickering with colours, as in it was actually with lines, and what it was doing was it was going from main menu screen, and as if it was breaking down, and it was flickering with colours through the screen, through the LCD screen. I don't think the LCD screen was at fault. I think it was the actual phone itself, the PCB board. So the phone that cost £6 ended up. I said on it. I said that because it was in the condition it was in, that it wouldn't end up as a donor. The poor phone, it ended up become a donor. It ended up become a donor for another one, because when you buy phones as no for eBay in bulk and you buy them untested, you're never sure of what fault they actually have or whether they're actually fully working or not. So you're actually taking a gamble and hoping it pays off. And there is times where either it's got a PIN code or certain things on it, because it's like that box. It's like that box there that I bought. Now that box was bought as untested, and it actually does work. But I'm actually trying to give it jobs at the moment, because there's a lot of things that box does, and I want to basically give it challenges, but it doesn't actually do. I don't think it does the actual Nokias. I've actually got one sitting, laying up at the moment, and what it is it's got a PIN code on it. Now I don't know where to try and see if I can find the software to take the PIN code off it and resurrect the PIN code out it. I'm hoping that maybe the cyclone box will touch it, and if it doesn't, then I might end up having to break it down. But what I'm thinking is I've got two that I've took apart. The one that originally was the parts that came from the 5800 that I showed, the £6 one. It ended up it's left disassembled, because there's no point in going any further with it, because if there's an issue with the PCB board, it could be anywhere. It could be an IC, it could be a resistor, it could be a capacitor, it could be but these capacitors are like small, they're like intricate. But it also could be on the eMMC chip, or the BGA, what they call the BGA chip. Now, when I go into the phone talk, this is when I lose a lot of people, because they go, I don't know what you're talking about, Alec. they used to call it was called a BGA chip, but it's also called an eMMC chip. The eMMC chip has got basically all the software inside it, and basically the software is actually on that chip. But the thing is, when we take the chip off, say for instance we lift the chip, you use a hot air station, and you've got to pull it, take it off, then reball it, clean all the PCB board as in that where it sits, the EMC chip, and then you do whatever you have to do to it, as in flush the information out of the chip, because there is a bot. I would need to show it. There's an actual eMMC adapter you can use. This is where it comes into the what they call the EasyJ tag. You've got the EasyJ tag box. You've also got the Medusa box, and you've also got the UFI box. The UFI is different to the Medusa, and the Medusa is also differently to the EasyJ tag. EasyJ tag was made for Z3X team, which was originally Samsung's. EasyJ tag decided they wanted to do a universal box, so I have got the universal box, but I'm still studying it at the moment, as in the boxes, the differences of the boxes themselves at the moment. I've not went into the software side because it's very technical, and this is where it comes in. But a lot of stuff that you'll see me do, because that was what the whole channel was supposed to be about, was the phone stuff. What happened is that I decided that maybe the phone stuff wasn't as if it wasn't worth talking about. I just didn't want the hassle of the yes and the no. The only case because of the yes and no was because some boxes do differently. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, depending on what models they were made for. Some software doesn't work properly, as in fully for it. Some does. So that's how you have to have the different boxes and the different software. But that's when it comes technical terms. But I tend to try and stay away from the software side of it and just do the assembly, the disassembly, and taking the donors from one to another, which is switching the parts, which is. But I tend to like the older stuff better than the newer stuff, because that stuff I was into more than what I was into this stuff. But a lot of because what I found out that Nokia, the thing with Nokia is they were too far advanced, and they were trying to keep up with, I think they were trying to keep up with Apple at the time, and the company reached a point where basically they didn't shut the company down, they sold over to Microsoft. Microsoft bought it for a couple of years and took the running of it, and Microsoft then pulled out, and Microsoft didn't want nothing to do with phones or to do phones. So I don't know if Nokia decided to buy the company back, but the company had to change names into HMD, which is, I can't remember what the letters stand for, as in, but Nokia have come back, but they're not established as what they used to be, as in the company itself at the moment. They're trying to put a lot of stuff into the USA market. The reason why they're doing that is to get the shares and their stocks and the shares, as in increase in value, and they're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. There's a big development team and all the rest, and they're trying to, as in, put the company back together again. The company was originally started in Finland. That's where the company started, in Finland. And what happened is the employees wanted the company back because they'd lost jobs and whatever, but it wasn't in fact because they lost jobs. They liked Nokia, and Nokia obviously was a good company to work for, and because of losing the company, the population over there wanted it back, and they decided that eventually they would come back in force, and this is what they did. But the thing is, a lot of the production isn't. Some of it's made in Finland, some of it's made in Germany, and some of it's made in China. And what they do is they send out, they say, right, we're going to build this model. They want 20,000 to get it done or 30,000 to get it done. And what they do is they go for the cheapest person that'll build them. So they might put a contract to China, they also put a contract to Finland, but they actually own part of the company and they'll also own part of the manufacturing stage yet, or the process stage yet. I didn't want to go into Nokia and talk about Nokia and the company itself. I just wanted to do a video explaining what happened with the 5800, because I had two originally that I had. There was two I originally had, and I ended up bought three because I took the bit off the digitizer off of one of them, and I needed the digitizer. That was the whole purpose was to get the digitizer. But then I thought, what if I buy this one and the digitizer doesn't work on it? Because what if somebody'd been into it and ripped the ribbon? Because there's a ribbon cable that goes inside it. When you take off the digitizer, the top end of it, I should have showed disassembly. When you take it off, you click it as in you click it here underneath. You click it up, and it comes up. And there's a ribbon cable that goes underneath it. Now, when you take it apart, you've got to take the whole disassembly down in it, as you've got to take 4 screws out, and then you've got to go underneath. There's a metal frame where the LCD sits on. You take the LCD screen out, you remove the 2 screws, and then eventually when you get into the PCB board, the ribbon cable sits round like that. It actually goes round. It actually goes like that. It clicks there on the PCB board. So you get a green PCB board like that. Like that. And it clicks. It goes in there. And then it goes round like that. But the metal frame is on top of it, so you don't see it. And the LCD sits on top of it. And then you get digitizer on top of that. And that's what I needed for one of the phones, was a digitizer. And that's it's like, well, if I buy, so then that's why I bought one for somebody else, which was just a person. It wasn't a company. And the other 2 was for London Magic Store. And when the 2 of them come for London Magic Store, one said that the screen was faulty, and the other one said about the loudspeaker was at faulty. But I don't know if they'd been using software to tell them this, because when I paired it up, there was nothing wrong with the screen. And I thought, this don't marry up. And then I'm thinking, has somebody been in and fixed it? And then they've realised there's a fault, as in when they put the software back on it, because there's a software out there that these companies actually buy, and they have it. And what it does is it does a test and it passes them. And if it shows a fail, it'll show fail, as in it's testing. But I don't have the NSI piece of equipment as in to do that test, to run that test, because that piece of software is absolute fortune to buy it, as in it's like a forensic software, and I don't possess forensic software. I've got these boxes for doing like the unlocking and the software side of it. It doesn't tell you, as in it doesn't say pass. It doesn't tell you pass and then tell you what it's failed on. But it still is good. Don't get me wrong. The boxes they're really good. They're really good for repairing them. But usually I do a manual test on them. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll leave the phone for a couple of hours or whatever, as in running, and see if it comes up with any faults. But what happens is, if I sold that phone, say for instance I sold that phone, right, and the customer gets that phone and there's a fault with that phone, I've got a setup that I do with that customer, as in I I'm not one of these people that, as in, just run away. As in, if a phone's not right, I'll either take it back and do a replacement for the phone, or if they turn around and say, because I'll ask the customer, what do you want to do about that? What do you want to do about this? You're saying that this is a fault, or the phone is there's a phone that's a fault. So I'm like, well, you need to send the phone back. And I'm like, well, either you can have a replacement. And if they go, well, I don't want a replacement, I go, well, I'll tell you what I'll do with you. You've paid the postage and you've paid the price of what you bid for it. So you get the money back for what you bid for it. And you get your money back for your postage. So all you've lost is basically your postage of sending it back in the first place. Because I've got to have something as in thingy to resell it. Because I can't afford for them to have their money plus also the phone. So I've got to have something back at the end of the day. And I'm like, well, I sold you it. And I'm telling you that you're saying that it's got a fault in the phone, which I've obviously overlooked. Because sometimes there's faults in them that you can't analyse. And sometimes if it runs for so long, because that's what you're doing with used phones. When you buy them as used, you're hoping that they'll last 6 months or whatever, because you can't put a warranty on it. You can't guarantee it. But a lot of companies out there that are now doing with eBay or whatever, they're saying 12 months warranty or whatever else. And they say, oh, it's a refurbished phone. But all they're doing is what I'm doing. They buy them in as a full load, test them with their software or whatever, hope that the software runs in them, hoping they last for 6 months or 12 months, what the warranty is, and then they turn around and say to the customer, well, it's not a problem now. It's done at 6 months, or it's 6 months is out of warranty, because they know exactly the date that customer actually bought that phone, because they mark it down. Right, that phone was sold on such and such a date. That's got 6 months warranty on it. 6 months warranty, hoping that it lasts 6 months or 12 months, because they're saying it's a refurbished phone. But they don't refurbish it themselves, they send it to a technician, and the technician does all the work on it. But I've seen phones where, as in like I've seen like phones with jumper wires and all sorts, as in actually video footages on Facebook or with groups on Facebook, which are proper technicians, and they go, this is the fault, this phone had this fault, blah blah blah, this is what we done to it, and it shows you jumper wires and all the rest of them. That is doctor work. I'm like, to me, or my old man would be, he would say that was cowboy work. I don't do that, as in if a phone's at fault or whatever, or a donor's at fault, and maybe say that I need it for donor parts, I'll pull it down and I'll not put that PCB board back in it. I just put the PCB board to one side, because I can get money back for that PCB board. I can actually send it to a company, as in when I got a full load, a bulk load of them, and send them a place that'll, because there's what they call gold recovery, and a lot of, but I'm into scrapping, I'm into saving stuff for the landfill site, and that's what I started doing with the phones, saving them for the landfill site, as in recycling them. That's what I do. I'm a recycler. I recycle stuff. That's what I'm doing, or that's what I do. And that's when people go, oh, I'm going to melt coins. To me, I'm like, well, if you're going to melt them, I'm like, no, you're not going to melt them. I'm going to save them before they get melted. But some people say that, and they make a joke of it. It's supposed to be a joke. They're not actually going to melt them. But whatever somebody does with a coin, it's nothing to do with me. It's their property, they can do what the hell they like with it. I just thought I'd get that out there, guys, as in, it was like, I wouldn't say a part 2 of the video, I just wanted to explain the what happened to the phone, or what was done with the phone at the end, what was the end result, and that's what I wanted to do. Right, guys, thanks for your time, thanks, bye.